Skoda Kodiaq long-term review. High-spec 7-seater Kodiaq begins its family life with a lot to prove for Skoda and SUVs. Growing fonder of the Kodiaq in its absence, 24 January 2018. A spot of vandalism left the front of the Kodiaq battered and bruised. While the car was fixed, I sampled a raft of alternatives, some with premium badges, but nothing quite matched the Kodiaq's blend of space, practicality and ease of use. I've a growing suspicion that it is the best under-the-radar do-anything car on the market. Defending the Kodiaq's diesel owner, 03 January 2018. Gah! Hang a bell round my neck and burn me at the stake, for I live in the city and I drive a large, diesel-supping SUV. I'd get less grief for wearing a t-shirt proclaiming loyalty to one side or the other of the Brexit debate, if only because just over 50%, or not quite 50%, of voters feel affinity for one side or the other of that particular argument. On the topic of diesel, there's increasingly little sympathy. I'll be honest, I feel guilty. Just 6 months ago, ordering a diesel engine seemed a perfectly logical thing to do. Indeed, we were encouraged to do it by lower fuel prices and company car tax incentives. For a child of the 1970s who went to school in the 1980s and 1990s, that made perfect sense. The specter of CO2-induced acid rain stripping the life out of forests was up there with erasing the ozone layer by using deodorant and trying to balance the possibilities of nuclear war as the Eastern Bloc collapsed. Now I'm not so sure. Normally, I'd trust the scientists, but there seems to have been something of a flip-flop of opinion, although most arguments seem to boil down to CO2, where diesel offers an average advantage of around 20% compared with the petrol engine, being bad for the planet and NOx, and particulates, where newer petrol engines are significantly advantageous, being bad for human health. I'd like to think the government listens to the scientists and reacts to the best, latest opinion, but these days I'm not so sure. Certainly, sections of the wider press have leapt on the anti-diesel bandwagon with some ferocity, and it seems ever more apparent that a government with a slim majority is susceptible to being influenced by both public opinion and the possibility of PR gains from changing policies set by their opposition at some point previously. The manufacturers. I get the angst of having invested millions, perhaps cumulatively billions, in cleaner diesel technology to meet legislatively driven standards, only to stand in the face of opinion, some reasoned, some rabid, decrying your efforts. Some of it I can even work out for myself. You don't need a PhD to Google the fact that a EU6 diesel should emit no more NOx than an EU4 petrol. But I say should because the industry record of taking official emissions tests isn't exactly without blemish. So here's my conclusion: for now, I reckon owning a modern diesel is fine, but appropriate only if you do long distances out of towns regularly. In my case, with a town commute, I'd probably be smarter owning a petrol, hybrid or electric car for daily driving, and using the diesel for long trips. Or, if I had only one car, likely buying a petrol, because my annual mileage barely tips 15,000. What's clear in my mind, though, is that owning a diesel and using it appropriately should not be demonized. I've driven the Kodiaq in 1.4-liter and 2.0-liter petrol forms. Both are good engines, albeit the 1.4 so long as you don't intend to travel fully laden frequently. But I dare say neither would approach the near 45 miles per gallon I'm currently enjoying, and I'd hazard I could get another 10% from it if I spent more time traveling sensibly on the motorway. Nor, obviously, do they provide my diesel's torque. The answer, then, to my mind at least, sits somewhere in between the two extremes. Much like the idea of buying an on-road biased SUV in the